show where we're bringing balance to the world, one household at a time. Listen, we go live every weekday, Monday through Friday at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I bring guests on that talk about their backstories, things that they've had to overcome to become who they are today. Many of them are balancing and juggling life, and they've become experts in different fields. So they're sharing tips with you to make your life just a little bit easier. Many times as a guest in the studio audience, you'll get a chance to walk away with a missing piece of the puzzle that might be missing in your life. Let's go on this journey together, and I look forward to seeing you Monday through Friday at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on The Kim Jacobs Show.
You're watching Kim Jacobs Show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of The Kim Jacobs Show. Guess who we have with us today? We have Jenna-Lee Sidbury. How are you, Jenna-Lee?
I am good, Miss Kim. How are you?
I think this has been like a long time coming, huh?
It has. Thank you so much for having me and allowing me to share your platform.
Well, thank you so much for being here today. It's such an honor and a privilege. And thank you so much for sending me a copy of your book, God Likes the Sound of Good Times. And this book by far should be some type of motion picture movie, not just even on a show or a network, but it's something that every single chapter is its own movie, in my opinion. Every single chapter has so much information and so much to it to kind of wrap into who you are today, that it is an unbelievable read and an unbelievable journey. So I am excited. What I want everybody to do is just take a quick second and invite people into today's discussion. We're going to have a great time talking with Jenna-Lee Sidbury today. And Jenna-Lee, tell people what they can kind of expect to hear on today's episode.
Well, expect to laugh, expect to cry, expect to talk about or hear about being selfless and making decisions, leading with love.
Leading with love and making decisions that make you lead with love. And her story is one that'll show you that if she can lead with love, then all of us should be able to just walk away with a little nugget from her story that can help us better lead with love. So put your seatbelts on. You're going to be on a roller coaster. Grab, oh my gosh, where's my cloth? Oh my goodness. Make sure you have your cloth or make sure you have some tissue, because you will definitely need it during this episode. And to see you smiling like this, and I know personally that you look so much like your mom, but to see you smiling like this is just amazing, to say the least. So just nothing short of miraculous, what you've experienced on this journey called life.
Yeah.
All right. So listen, when you grab your virtual seats, let us know who you are and where you're visiting in from. And we'll be honored to pop your comments up throughout today's discussion. And if you'd like to join us on screen, I am going to put here in the comment section for you an opportunity for you to cut and paste that link, and it'll bring you backstage into today's show. If you have a direct question, comment, or just a kind word that you want to share with our guest today. All right. So listen, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, Jenna-Lee, I would love for you to take us back as far back as you can remember, because way back when in the 1970s, some things even transpired at an early time in your life that nobody should have to experience at that age. But you're going to take us back on that journey right after this commercial break, everybody. We'll be right back.
I'm attorney Charles Everidge. I started out representing insurance companies until my father was seriously injured at work. 4 of his fingers were amputated. Our family went through a lot, so I know what you're going through as an injured worker. If you've been hurt on the job, call me now. I'll fight to get the workers' comp benefits you may deserve. I'll fight for you like family. Put my experience to work for you. Call 704-457-5000, the first call for injured workers.
All right, everyone, we are back and we're talking with Jenna-Lee Sidbury today. And I want to make sure that I share with you who this phenomenal woman is. She is a wife, a mother, a grandmother, author, founder of a clothing brand and God's warrior. Her story is unbelievable story, not merely just about overcoming a disastrous childhood that would have destroyed most people, but also emerging as a thriving, successful, loving woman. Welcome, Jenna Lee. Am I saying your name right, Jenna Lee?
Gino Lee.
Gino Lee. Okay, you were gonna let me say it like that the whole episode. Okay, that's because you have that kind, forgiving spirit. So you were just gonna let me just say it like that. But anyway, it's Gino Lee.
Yes.
Sidbury, correct?
You got it.
Okay, Gino Lee. That's even more exotic. Gino Lee. Gino Lee Sidbury is here today on the Kim Jacobs Show. Welcome. So, Gino Lee, talk to us and take us back on your journey, if you will.
Sure. So I grew up in what was like the soul food house, right? My mom and I lived upstairs from my great grandmother. And then when my mom and stepdad married, we were all on the second floor, my big mom on the first floor. And our home was like the Kool-Aid house, back in the day when everyone had, fruit trees in their yard, and we would go from house to house to get sprinkled or eat pears or eat cherries or grapes. And we had a vineyard in our backyard. And then things, took a turn for the worse. So I had a great foundation. And then things went left when my father's life was taken tragically when I was 9 years old. Mm-hmm. So he was murdered around the corner from our house at a local bar. Mm-hmm.
And well, okay, that when I read that, obviously, and when I heard that, I said that's something that a 9-year-old, you were 9 at the time, right? According to what I had read. And so at 9 years old, you have to find out that your dad is murdered. And that what I don't even know what, from a 9-year-old perspective, can you by chance put yourself in that space and tell us what that did for you as a child of this particular person?
I was numb. I remember my mom waking me up, and you know how you hear first before you open your eyes. And my mom woke me up and said, my middle name is Jemay, so my nickname has always been May.
May. And you're a May baby. I know all of this about you. I just was going to let you tell your own story versus me telling it all. Your birthday is May 30th. Mine is May 31st, just so you know.
Oh, wow. My big mama's birthday was May 31st. And we were so
okay, so but you say you were numb finding this out at 9 years old.
I was numb. And looking back at that 9-year-old little girl, I realized how numb I was. So my mom wakes me up and says, May, your father's been shot in the head and we don't know if he's going to live or not. She just said it, And I remember scratching my face from forehead to chin and just her getting me ready and telling me to get myself ready to go to the hospital. And so I was sitting there in the waiting room of the hospital alone, and there was a couple across from me, and they were looking at me like they knew me. I didn't know them.
Okay.
So now looking back, I think maybe there were some friends of my father's who maybe saw what happened and came to the hospital. They weren't friends that my mom, had around ever. So they had the look of concern on their face. And I was just sitting there wanting to see my dad, but they wouldn't let me see him. And I just remember just sitting there feeling sad, but I didn't cry. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you recommend that parents, because there is so much tragedy in the land, Gino Lee, and with this, people are getting murdered. There's so much death across the land for whatever the reason and time frame. It seems to me that it's more prevalent now than ever before. But do you recommend that parents that have children, that their other parent passes away or is tragically like in a situation like your dad, do you recommend that they talk to them and just be candid and cut and dry and to the point? Or do you feel like it's better to kind of massage it in some kind of way a little differently? What's your thoughts on that?
I think there's a middle ground. Yes, be candid and tell the truth and be honest.
Right.
She could have been a little more loving with it and held me or wait till I open my eyes and sit me up and talk to me. But that's my mom, kind of hard, sometimes not emotionally available. Okay. And I get it. you know, it's from generations, you know,
Okay.
before her, you know, just the hardness and just not being emotionally available too much, you know. And so that now I'm very just candid with my daughter and granddaughter, but also a little more softer with it, a sit down, but I'm going to give it to you uncut because that's how I want it.
Right, right. Okay, so you actually are the person that would prefer to receive it uncut and raw and
Yes,
just let
absolutely.
me digest it the way I need to, but don't hold it back and try to
Don't mince
sugarcoat
your
it.
words. No,
Wow.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, even right now, everybody, we're learning some valuable tips from Jean O'Lee, who's sharing her own tragic experience of having her father pass away because he did pass away. And was you tell us what happened at the hospital when you were there waiting.
Well, I just sat there for quite a while, and then I remember us leaving, and my mother and grandmother, you know, holding one another and crying, and me wanting to see him, and my mother said I couldn't. That was pretty much it. I don't remember much more about that night. It was very late. And I do just recall my mom and I sitting at the table the day before his funeral.
Okay.
And she was rolling her hair with those old school sponge rollers with the
I
pin.
still have some of those right now today, not old school. They're like 2022 right now.
Yes, and we were sitting there, and "Endless Love" came on
Mm.
by Diana Ross and Lionel Richie.
Yes.
And my mom and I was looking at my mom, and I could tell she was holding back her tears for me, and I was doing the same for her. But when we made eye contact, that was it. Yeah,
By the
and
river, right?
each other embraced. But there was no conversation about how do you feel, May, are you okay? There wasn't any conversation, you know. So I was just dealing with it my own way. And then the next day was his funeral.
Mm.
I recall, my of course grandparents being there. We have a small family, but there was a lot of guests there that were pimps, prostitutes, etc. And that's when I realized,
Mhm.
and I heard stories later that my father, once my mom and my father divorced, I was very, very young, too young to even recollect when they were married.
Right.
However, they divorced before I could, remember too. But he was a pimp.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so this is even another valid conversation that we need to have. There are people here walking this earth, and they're in different aspects of their lives or seasons of their lives. And like you said, directly, your dad was a pimp, according to what you're sharing. But here's the deal: he was still your dad.
That's right.
He was still your dad. Did him being a pimp change the level of love you have for him as your dad?
Not at all. Not at all. My dad, I was a daddy's girl.
Right.
I follow him everywhere so much that when I stayed with him on the weekends, he would turn around and knock me down. He was very tall. And he would go, May May, and I would follow my butt and get back up. But I have memories of my dad, and I just watching boxing together. I absolutely love boxing. I'm a sportswoman, and
Okay.
boxing is one of my favorite sports because of my dad. And just Howard Cosell's voice, I remember it, and so my dad and I had a good relationship, but it could have been better. He left me waiting a lot, you know.
Right.
Just doing he was a ladies' man, obviously. So I recall those bittersweet memories. There were sweet memories, right? And then there were those memories where I was supposed to see him on the weekend, but I would be over my grandmother's house. Yeah.
That's you and your daddy.
Yeah, actually he was in jail, and we were visiting him in jail.
And here's another picture we have of you and your dad.
Yes, that was Christmas Day.
Wow.
Mhm.
When you see these pictures, what memories do it bring back for you? Just those particular moments.
Just how my father, he was smooth. He was fine. I always say he reminds me of Leon from the Five Heartbeats. Like Leon, the pork chop sideburns, he was smooth. He was a dresser. He That's my dad.
And you were his baby girl, and there, look at, I mean, of course, he
Oh,
had to be fond of you. Look at you as an adorable baby. Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
Yes, that was taken back in Woolworths in Cleveland, Ohio, when they used to take pictures. They had a photo.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about those.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, with, I think too, also for people that are extended family and friends, and when you have people that like I know in all of our families, there are some people that we know do, whether it's drugs or alcohol or
Right.
have some level of addiction, whatever it may be.
Right.
It's so important, in my opinion, to still show some level of respect and consideration for that person, because that's still somebody's mom or dad. And in
Mhm.
your case, your dad was in this different kind of lifestyle.
That's right.
How important is it from your perspective for people to respect the parent regardless of what their walk of life is?
Well, like the good book says, we should honor thy mother and thy father. And that's always stayed with me.
Yeah.
So no matter how rough it was, how much they weren't there for me, what they did, I still honor my father. And of course, my mom is still with me. I still honor my mom.
Oh,
It's just the right thing to do. And, you feel it in your spirit, I'm sure there's parents out there where you just can't do it. Right. You have to set boundaries,
right.
if it's bleeding into your life. However, if it's something doable, right, then do it.
Good. I love the spirit that you have inside of you, because you just have a spirit of compassion and forgiveness and consideration, and I absolutely love this conversation. So listen, when we come back, what I would like for you to do is talk to us about your mom, because she played a pivotal role in your life, and I know was married with your stepdad. It's a lot of things that transpired. So was there anything else you want to say about your dad before we stop talking about just his piece of this puzzle?
Well, I found out that I had a sister while I was at his funeral reading the obituary. That's how I found out. And
Oh, well, you were reading the obituary. Somebody was reading the
I was
obituary,
reading it. Yeah. And that's
and
how.
you literally in the middle of reading. And so my dad, and he is now leaving behind me, blah, blah, and my sister. And you're like,
Yeah.
where's the sister?
It had my full name there and her first name. And I was just like, yeah.
Well, was she there?
No, she wasn't.
Oh, okay.
She was still in her mother's stomach, from my understanding.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. She was not born yet. She was
No,
born right after.
did you ever find out who she was or anything?
Yes. Yeah, she reached out to me a few years back in 2016, excuse me, 2016.
Wow.
Yes. And I knew her first name, and I had been looking for her when Facebook came about.
Oh,
And so when she reached out to me, I said, sis, I know exactly who you are. I'm sure you have questions, call me when you're ready. But yeah, it's a lot to that story as well.
and so you all are now connected with each other?
No, unfortunately, we went back and forth with calling one another, play phone tag. I went to Cleveland, Ohio to see her, and she stood me up, and I thought maybe she had cold feet, which I understand.
Okay.
Right. I wanted to give her whatever I could about our dad, because I have pictures and memories and she didn't. Right. And I was on Facebook a couple of years ago, just right when COVID hit. And a mutual friend of mine said, rest in peace, her name and then her husband's name. And I knew her name is uncommon like my first name. And I knew that was her. And I clicked the link and it was a news story. She was killed just like our father, shot in the back of the head. Her and her husband, they were high school sweethearts, 5 kids, in a car, in their truck. And
oh my goodness.
Yeah. And so that really just it knocked the wind out of me.
That knocks the wind out of anybody. What in the world?
Because I didn't need a DNA test to know that was my sister, the way I felt, number one, right? Even though we really didn't make the contact we wanted, all those years on social media, she would say, Happy Mother's Day. We would say that, Merry Christmas. This, we communicate on social media, but not in person. So anyway, it hurt a lot. And when I clicked the link and saw that it was the same way our father's life had been taken, that really knocked the wind out of me. And so she's no longer with us, but yeah. And so,
Wow. Well, you have five nieces and nephews or something that still exist on this earth,
yeah,
and you never know how God intends for you all to come together and get to know each other. So that's my prayer, is
right.
that a piece of her will be able to stay connected with you some kind of way long from this phase on in life. You
Yeah.
never know how God can make all of these things work together
Amen. I know.
synergistically. So
Amen.
wow. Okay. I wasn't even expecting that. I just wasn't expecting that part of the conversation. Listen, what we're going to do is we're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, I'd like to hear some of you and your mom's journey, because again, you have Big Mom, you have all of these people that are still actively involved in your life. Y'all are all right there near each other. I know 147th Street is a part of this whole book. I'm not going to reveal any details pertaining to the book. You definitely want to get your own copy of God Loves the Sound of Good Times. And I've put in the comment section how you can obtain a copy of that book. All you have to do is go to God Likes the Sound of Good Times.square.site / and you will be able to obtain your copy of this riveting read is what it is. Okay.
Copy.
And we're going to go there. Now, when we come back after this commercial break, we're going to just kind of slightly turn the corner and we're going to hear something about Gino Lee's mom and her relationship and some other people that kind of start coming into the mix. So you know who those people are. We'll talk with her more right after this commercial break. We'll be right back, everybody.
I have peace of mind with Silver Shield Security, which has been protecting my family and home, along with servicing the Carolinas for over a decade. Silver Shield Security knows the importance of convenience and safety. Whether you live in an apartment or home or run a business, they are here to protect you from unwanted intrusions and fires. Call now at 704-440-4688 or visit the website at www.silvershield-security.com. You can use my promo code #ToneX and get 1/2 off your installation price. Don't forget to ask about the new no money down options. Let Silver Shield Security help to give you peace of mind, just like me and my family, and keep your business safe.
All right, everyone, we are back and we are talking with Gino Lee Sidbury. Talk to us about your mom and your relationship.
My mom is crazy. She's our family Medea. she is. She's so hard-headed, but that's my girl. I love her dearly. Yes, I do.
That's so funny, the description. Oh, so speaking of Tyler Perry, he's actually been in show business for 30 years at this point.
I know we just
And I saw that on Twitter and some different things. So we salute you, Tyler Perry. That's an incredible accomplishment, and we're all very proud of you. Okay, go ahead. So your mom is likened to Medea. Go ahead.
My mom always says Medea learned some things from her. So
okay.
yes, but Medea always means well, but always in something, But that's my mom, I'm just glad to have her here with me in North Carolina. We're in North Carolina now.
Oh, okay. What part?
And I live in Kernersville. My daughter and grandbaby and my mom live in Greensboro, just about 30 minutes away from me.
Well, I live in Charlotte, so we can definitely at least get together for lunch one day.
Have to, absolutely. That's a deal.
I didn't even know that either. So this is amazing.
Yeah. So it's a blessing because of where we come from to be here all together, right? So
that's good.
So
now your mom, she had your first stepfather come into the mix. Talk to us a little bit about the stepfather journey.
Well, they separated right before my father's life was taken.
Oh, okay.
So it was a very, very rough patch for me because he had just moved out and then this happened. Right. Wow. So yeah. So
your mom and dad were married. They got divorced really early before you, far back from where you could even remember, but you still had a relationship with your dad, a very close relationship with your dad, to the point where when something happened, you were rushed to the hospital to be by his side as well. And then your mom got remarried. And I think I have is this a wedding picture?
Yes, that is their wedding day. I was the flower girl in the peach, and that was my grandma Jean there in the teal, whose life was tragically also taken in 87. And that is my big mama there they both had on silver gloves, but standing behind my mom. And she died of natural causes when I was 12.
Dang, man. So both your grandma and your great grandma are no longer here on this earth. Your mom, you look so much like your mom sitting there, just so you know. That looks a lot like you.
Yeah, I know.
And that's when she got married to your stepdad, your first stepdad.
Right.
Okay.
We have some seriously strong genes, but very beautiful women.
Beautiful women.
Strong women with class and polish. Yes.
Wow. So now you said your grandmother was tragically murdered as well?
Yes. Her life was taken in 87. I was 14 years old.
Dang.
And I had just become a mom. I got pregnant, of course, and just had my daughter, my high school sweetheart. And my daughter was 6 months. And her father was convicted of my grandmother's murder.
And this is Ronell, the person you were talking about? Okay.
Ronell, my daughter's father. Yes.
Yes. Okay. I read all of this. I know the story. Like I'm just going back and listening from a rewind perspective. But now, okay. I am having a hard time trying to think of what to even ask pertaining to
It's okay. I understand.
This is really a lot.
It is. It's hard to even stay on subject when we're talking,
Yes.
to people about it. It's so much, and you don't want to say a little bit without telling that whole story.
Yes. What in the world? Okay. So now, now your mom, oh my gosh. Okay. So your dad was murdered. Your grandmother, was this official that she was killed by was this real, or is this just hearsay? What's happening? I don't know.
Real. It's real. It's real. It was real. There was a whole trial, and it was real.
So now your grandmother's life is taken,
Yes.
and Ronell's life is also taken because he's now gone to prison to serve time for what happened with your grandma.
That's right.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's take a quick commercial break.
Okay.
We'll be right back. Wow.
Nothing says I love you more than final expense insurance whole life protection with funeral advocacy nationwide, saving you and your family 30 to 80% off funerals and cremations. Nothing says I love you more than Get Insured Solutions, LLC. GetInsured.Solutions, 704-499-3616.
Okay, wow. We are back. We're talking with Gina Lee Sidbury, and she is the author of God Likes the Sound of Good Times. Well, right now, the sounds that we are hearing are not a lot of good times. They're very tragic moments. So I would be interested in knowing how is these good times from, because when you wrote this wonderful book, and this book is a very impactful story, but it's based on all true real life events.
Yes.
You are a teen mom, 14 years old. You have a 6-month-old child. The father is the one that's convicted of killing your grandmom.
Yes.
And what does this do for you? You're in the middle. You're the common denominator of a lot of these things that's happening, right? And they're impacting your life, but they're also impacting everything else that's going to happen for the rest of life for everybody else. Talk, just encourage us, because I need to know how you were encouraged through this storm. These are significant storms.
Yes, they were. And I was encouraged by looking at my daughter's big brown eyes and knowing that I had to be strong for her.
Whew.
I had to. And I don't condone teen sex that young, especially, or pregnancy. But God put my daughter in my life for a reason, to help me stay focused on life. Because I don't know what I would have done, if I didn't have someone else to take care of and to, be concerned about. Right. So in a world of chaos, I had to take care of this little baby girl. And that kept me focused and kept me going.
That is amazing that God would even grant you that gift, because like you say, if that wasn't there, you don't know what the end would have been. I can't even imagine what the outcome could have been, because these are dear people in your life. Boyfriend that you decided to be intimate with, to have the baby, and then grandmom who's been there forever for you in every aspect of your life. And she's like this one big happy family right on top of each other, living together and making life wonderful. And this is all stripped away. Now, when you decided that you were going to start visiting your boyfriend, is that what you started doing, visiting him in the prison? Because I don't want to go too deep into your story, but you started visiting him. Talk to us about that and how that went.
Well, I just visited him once or twice when he was first arrested. He wasn't arrested right away. Right. So there's so much. So the day that we found my grandmother was the day my daughter was supposed to be christened. It was ironic that his mother, Ronell's mother, moved right down the street from my grandmother.
Wow.
She lived, quite a ways away, still in Cleveland, but about 20, 25 minutes away from all of us. Right. Ronell was kind of living with us and living with her type of thing, I was working at Wendy's, and I would walk to work, got ready for work. And I woke up, and Ronell was staying with us, of course. So my mother allowed us to sleep together in the same room. Mm-hmm. And I woke up and he wasn't there. And I was being poked by a stick by him and his cousin to wake up. And I went and opened the door, and I was like, why are you poking me with a stick through the window? Right. And he's like, I don't want to wake your mom up, And I was like, okay. And I'm getting ready for work, getting bottles together, went off to work that Saturday. Walked back home. My mom was on the porch with my daughter in the playpen. Back in the day, we used to have the playpens on the porch.
Right, out on the outside. Right. All that I know.
And I was like, where's Ronell? And she was like, oh, I knew you were on your way home. So I let him go with his friends. And I looked down the street and saw the silhouettes of a group of young men, walking down the street. And
right.
Then I got myself together, got my baby, and he came back, and I wasn't feeling good. And he went and got me a ginger ale, and we knew the baby's christening was the next day. And so we were getting ready for that. And I said, why don't you just, he was on a bike. I said, why don't you ride your bike to your mom's house and get dressed, and then just go down to Grandma Jean's house, right? And ride to the church with her. And I was going to ride with my mom, and her then boyfriend with the baby. He said, okay, cool. And then he comes back. I'm doing my hair. My mom's still asleep. He comes back with his mom and stepdad. And I was just like, what's going on? And he had his head down, and his mom was like, we're not going to say anything until you wake up your mom. And I was like, what's wrong? And, he was like, it's Grandma Jean. And I was like, what's wrong with her? And his mother repeated herself. And so I went and ran into my mom's room, of course, and snatched her out of the bed like something's wrong with Grandma Jean.
Right.
And I remember Ronell sitting at our living room table, and he was nervously playing with some Jet magazines on the table, right? And my mom was like, what's wrong with my mother? And his mother was talking to my mom like, something's wrong with your mom. And he said that when he went by her house on his bike, he knew something was wrong because her front door was open. So he rolled in the back on the side, to the side door. And he looked and saw her laying there, her legs, and he tried to look at and see if he saw her moving, her stomach moving, and she didn't seem to be breathing. And that's when he zoomed to his mom's house. And of course they came to us. And so of course it it was like when you see in the movies when things are in slow motion, it's really like that.
I know.
It's really like that. And I was feeling like everything went so quick because my mother's boyfriend was still in their sleep. But I promise you, Kim, when I turned around after they said that, my mother and her boyfriend were pulling out of the driveway. And I still can't explain to this day how that happened so quickly. But I quickly gathered my daughter and myself and rode with Ronell, his mother and stepmother, to my grandmother's house. And when we left, I yelled we had family, across the street, next door, cousins next door. I'm screaming for them to all follow us, and they did.
Right.
And when we pulled up, I kind of tossed my daughter to Ronell. His stepfather was still trying to park on the curb, but I kind of tossed my daughter to Ronell. We were in the back seat, and I was getting out while the car was still rolling because I saw my mother running down the driveway with her boyfriend chasing her, pulling her hair out. And I knew my grandmother was gone. I knew she was gone. And as I was running to the door, the side door, all my family's trying to catch me, yelling, telling me, don't touch anything. They knew, right? Don't touch anything, and I grabbed the door and I'm thinking I'm going to run up in the house. I knew she was somewhere in the house, and something stopped me, and I looked down and I saw her legs. Yeah. Yeah. And then I looked around the door and I saw her, and, I regret looking, but it happened for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. And that's how I have to compartmentalize it,
Yeah. It takes a lot to compartmentalize. And the story that you're sharing right now is very different than what the outcome was for your boyfriend at the time, So
Yes.
something different happened that came together.
Yeah. So you were asking me about visiting him, and when he got arrested, it was a few days later, but at the scene right there, when the police came, they were saying, call the police. And then he was the one who said, her car's gone. And then we all said, oh my goodness, we were so wrapped up in what was going on, we didn't realize her car was gone.
Right.
And when the detectives got there, they started questioning Ronell about had he had something to drink red, something to eat red. And he was like, no, why? And they said, because it looks like blood on your tennis shoes, on your shoestrings. And we all looked down, and it was a whirlwind after that. They put him in the back of the police car, confiscated his tennis shoes, drove him down the street to his mom's house to get some more. He didn't have any more shoes. My grandmother had bought him those tennis shoes. And so he was walking around barefoot. And to circle back to answer your question, a couple of days later, it was a lot. It was a lot going on. Jet magazine came. I remember the guy walking up to what was a full porch of family and friends and neighbors. And I was sitting there with a neighbor, and he talked to me and asked me, hey, I want to interview, I want to talk to your mom about your grandmother. So someone thought well enough of my grandmother to have her story in the Jet magazine. She was also in the Air Force. And she had just gotten her 35-year pin. She was the accounting clerk at the post office. And my mom turned him down, and I wish she had not done that, but it happened. And so the guy just walked off. And a couple of days later, Ronell was arrested, and him and his mother came.
Oh my goodness, is right, Lady Hillary.
A detective and his mother came to our house, and he came in and started reading Ronell his rights. And I was just like, what? He didn't do anything. What are you talking about? Well, there was a lot I didn't know at that point. And they arrested him. And a neighbor took me to see him then. But before I jumped to that, they arrested him, and my mother was asleep. She wasn't sleeping well, clearly. And so she was still asleep. It was later in the day. And I recall sitting there thinking, with my baby in my arms, thinking, I cannot wake my mother up and tell her that Ronell was arrested for this. I can't do that by myself.
No.
And so I called my play uncle, / my mom's best friend. He was also like a play uncle I grew up with. He lived across the street, him and his wife. And I called him over and told him and asked him to help me tell my mom.
Yes.
And we broke the news to my mom. And then that's when a neighbor took me like a day or so later, my daughter and I, to go see Ronell. So I only visited him once or twice. And then I started rethinking things and replaying things in my mind and just being still to not let, this was my grandmother. So forget love. Even at that age, I knew no. Let me back up a bit and pump my brakes, right? So I only went to go see him like once or twice, and so he can see his daughter, and that was it. I did not go see him again until 30 years later. Yeah.
Wow. And
Yeah.
so okay, did he ever confess to you that, hey, I did do this, I'm sorry?
Never did. Of course, we had those conversations in different times of stages of my life. We had them when it first happened. He said he didn't, he said he didn't do it. He didn't know what happened, but there was so many components to the story because, he was that Saturday while I was at work at Wendy's, he was driving my grandmother's car with friends. And he went to a neighborhood swimming pool, a spot that we used to go to, just the kids driving around. And she was gone at this time. So he couldn't explain that. And just to circle back, when I walked up on the porch after work, when my mom was on the porch with my daughter in the playpen, my mom said, your grandmother didn't show up to the park today. And there was a festival going on. They bought raffle tickets for my grandmother didn't show up.
Oh, okay. So she had already been passed, possibly. And
And
this is again, all just so let me make sure we put this up here. I don't know, Mackenzie, you can find it because you always know where it is. But the views expressed today on the Kim Jacobs Show do not reflect that of the Kim Jacobs Show, CTR Media Network, Believe in Your Dreams, or any Les Brown Network, any of that. These are stories that are from the guests from our studio, our actual private guest. And so Gina Lee is sharing her own personal story of tragedy to triumph here on the Kim Jacobs Show. And I'm very grateful that you're taking the time to share this with us. Okay, so 30 years later, 30 years past, let's go back. I want to put this picture up of your grandmother, even though it's in this wedding photo. Your grandmother is there in the teal.
Yes, she always blinked back with the Polaroid days because the flash messed with her eyes, and almost all of our family photos, her eyes are closed.
She's so beautiful, beautiful woman, beautiful woman.
Yes.
And so I know that she's quite proud of you continuing to speak well of her and her life and what she brought to this earth. And wow. Okay, so 30 years goes by and you decide you're going to go and see Ronell again. What made that be the case?
Well, I was on my way to my daughter's. We had plans to go to the circus in 2017. And I walk in the door and my daughter's upset and said her grandmother had just called her. Now, mind you, we hadn't heard from her. Her grandmother, Ronell's mother, wasn't in my daughter's life. And when my daughter started driving, and I mean, of course, I let her know who they were. I paid for the collect calls all while he was in jail. They had a relationship. I sent pictures. I said, this is still your dad. At 9 years old, she asked me, where's my dad? Why isn't? And I knew that question was coming. I told myself, I know that day is going to come. And it came, and I sat down and was honest with her. I went in the bathroom and cried and came back and told her the truth. And so they had the relationship until she got her own cell phone and then grew up and was on her own. And when she got her first car, she went to go visit her grandmother. And her grandmother, Ronell's mother, was able to meet my granddaughter. And so with that being said, fast forward to 2017, I'm walking in the house thinking we're going to the circus, and my daughter's upset because her grandmother had called, and I knew something was wrong for her to call, first of all, and she wasn't that involved all these years.
Of course.
But Ronell had fallen out or collapsed, coughing up blood in jail. And and I was like, what's wrong? And my daughter was upset, and of course, rightfully so. And she, I told her to call her grandmother, and I got on the phone and talked to her. And she said that they didn't know what was wrong, but he had collapsed in jail, coughing up blood, playing basketball. I said, well, we're coming. I'm coming.
Right.
We're coming. She said, they think it's fluid on his lungs. I don't know. She didn't know. And then as days went on, that was in the middle of the weekend. We had planned, we both worked, my daughter and I, so we had to plan to go for that weekend, of course. And it went from, having fluid on his lungs to, other things, but it turned out that he had a rare cancer. And so when we got there, and on the way there, I told my daughter, I said, I told his mother on the phone, and I told my daughter, I am going with you. I would not have you drive 8 hours and do this alone. But whatever will lift his spirits, because I know it's going to blow his mind to see me. And I had to support my daughter. And then I started thinking, because I know how life is too short. And I wanted him to meet his granddaughter, right? And she needed to know that this is life. This is what it is. She was only 10. And so we all got on the road and went. And on the way there, I told my daughter, I want you to have your time with your dad.
Yes.
But I want a moment with him alone. Right. I need a moment with him alone. We had not spoken face to face in 30 years.
30 years, right.
On the phone, but not face to face.
Right.
So to answer your question about the conversations through the years and what he said, he stuck to his story the whole time. But as I grew into a woman and could approach him as a woman, right, I was kind of wondering if his growth was stunted, if being in jail, stunted his growth. But the conversation seemed like, he was okay. He was there. He was taking care of himself. Right. And so we had those conversations. What happened to my grandmother? Listen, you have nothing to lose. I need to know what happened to my grandmother.
Right.
Right. There's no chance of us ever being together, but the least you can do, and especially with me not being 100% sure, but you have nothing to lose now. And he stuck to his story all those years. And so we talked in and out about it. And then leading to this situation when I went with my daughter and granddaughter in 2017, and I told her I need to talk to him face to face. And she said, Mom, don't. I said, I'm not going to badger him, but I need to have a moment with him. I always wanted to see him face to face, and I didn't expect it to be this way. So I have to do this.
Right.
And when we got there, found out my granddaughter was too young to go up. You had to be 12. And so there was a female sergeant there who allowed my granddaughter to stay with her. And my granddaughter started crying. She said, look, I have daughters. And she had a picture of her family. I have kids. You're going to be safe. We can see the radio. We can radio your mom and granny if you want to talk to them, but we had no choice at that moment. And I told the sergeant, listen, I know this is about liability reasons. I get it. Been there, done that. So whatever form you all have to create, so my granddaughter can go upstairs.
Right. And see him.
Kind of coming in, and you didn't know we were coming. But whatever document you all have to create, I'm her grandmother. This is her mom. Create it. So tomorrow when we come back, she can go up because this is her grandfather and he could possibly be on his deathbed.
Right.
And so my daughter and I go up and, when it was a long walk from these locker rooms and where the sergeant was, we had to leave everything, cell phones, to go and to get to Ronell's room. We were escorted, of course, by security. And when we got close to the door, I kind of lagged back a little bit because I was just going, right, and being strong. But then I started feeling the weight of what was about to happen. And who I was about to see, right? And getting nervous and sweaty palms and armpits and just taking a deep breath and watching my daughter walk in first. And I started, of course, it was a trigger. Yeah. And I didn't realize it was a trigger until it happened and the trigger was pulled.
That's right.
And so I was this 14-year-old girl again and was having
all the way back to having your 6-month-old baby and him getting ready to go.
I was not. Yes, I was
That's a lot. That's a whole episode in itself too.
It
So
is.
what happened when you officially come face to face with your alone time with
My daughter walked in and she said, "Dad, look who it is." And I walked in and he looked and then he just started crying. Tears were pouring. He was very alert, looked good. He always took care of himself in jail, so he looked good just like he did in high school.
Do I have your permission to put his picture
Sure,
up?
you sure can.
Okay, because I want to make sure this is him, correct?
Yes, that's him. That's him. And but it's so crazy, Kim, because when we got there, he had tubes down his throat.
Hmm.
And the nurse said he was fine before you all got here and he had a seizure and they had tubes down his throat.
Hmm.
And I thought to myself, okay, God, so what you're saying is we don't need to talk about anything. Just be there for him and your daughter.
Yeah. Wow. Now that right there is a moment of a true coming to the realization that you may never get what you're looking for directly from him to bring formal closure.
Exactly. Exactly. I wasn't going to beat him up or anything and rehash everything, but I just wanted to talk to him and he could not talk to me.
He could not talk.
He could not
His
talk.
ability to do what you needed to bring closure for your life could not happen. What advice do you give people today that's watching that may never get closure from the person that may have wronged them in some regard?
Right. You have to forgive because it's for you. You know, it's cliche. I know most adults, you've heard this before, but it's real. And even though we're adults and we're human, we want to hold grudges. We don't get it. We don't do it. And we know we should. But it really is for you. And when I forgave him a long time ago.
Right.
But when I started walking in this, when I went to that hospital and I saw him and how he was overwhelmed and taken back to see me, and he raised his arms up. He had tubes up in his arms to hug my daughter and I realized the trip was for all of us. It wasn't just me, or it wasn't just my daughter, or it wasn't just Ronell. It was for all of us. And so you have to forgive because really you not sweeping things under the rug and walking through those problems. There's no way to get through them except to walk through them and just forgive along the way, right? And enjoy the journey, even if there's a detour. A truly happy person will enjoy the journey, even if there's a detour in life. And there was a lot of detours and sharp lefts and rights for me, but I just knew better. Something in my spirit just led me, and it was the God in me, right? To just do the right thing.
Yes.
And when you do the right things and let the chips fall where they may, you just really can't go wrong.
Now,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I interrupted you.
And so he tried to talk to, my daughter had her time with him. He tried to talk to me, meaning right after we went in there, I kind of chuckle sometimes nervously when I'm nervous. I laugh or joke when I'm nervous.
I have a child that does that. My 25-year-old, he's forever laughing. I'm like, are you serious? This is not a laughing moment. And he's like, it's my coping mechanism.
I'm always typically happy, but I do have a sense to do that a little bit when I'm nervous, like crack jokes. And I said, you had to go get the big C just to pull me out of the woodwork. Now look, you pulled me out of, and he was so shocked to see me. His face was just, it was priceless. But he was trying to write something.
Somebody else say they do that too, laughing as a coping mechanism.
He was trying to write something, and he looked at his writing and he just kind of looked deflated. And I knew he was trying to tell me something, and I could tell his vision wasn't okay. And then he pointed, the nurse said, do you want the letters? And those letters we used to have on the magnets we had on our refrigerator.
Right.
He tried to use that and he was trying to tell me something. But I told him to just relax. We're here, and he seemed to be really exhausting himself just by trying to tell me something.
Trying to make it happen. Right.
Trying to, tell me something. And it started with a P and then we didn't get much further than that. And I said, well, you know what? We're just going to pray for you. We stopped and prayed right then. But the next day, I just want to say that we stayed for the weekend, and that next day they called me at the hotel, and one of the male sergeants said, Miss Sidbury, Sergeant so-and-so, I forgot her name now. Good news, your granddaughter's able to go up. We have something for you all to sign, of course, but she can go up.
Aww.
And I was just like, thank you, God. And so she met her grandfather, and it was really sad, but he was cuffed to the bed. His ankle was cuffed to the bed. And when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, but he really, I forgot he's still an inmate.
Right.
And I have to say, when we first walked in, the guy that was there, I realized he was also a CO, and he was in tears. And he said, I've been knowing this boy since he pretty much walked in here at 16 for over 30 years. And he's a great guy, man. We've done some stuff that I would get fired for. He said, and I feel like he was like, Jamae, this boy is still in love with you. And he said about my daughter, he said, Janisha, your father loves you so much. I feel like I know you all, and I raised you because you are all he talks about. And that really did something to me. There were doctors, nurses coming up to me standing outside the room, not even where they knew what room I was from. And I was standing outside the room, his hospital room, with my granddaughter, while my daughter was having some time with him talking to a doctor. And then another nurse and doctors came up and said, are you with Bryant? That was his last name, Rynell Bryant. And I said, yeah, I'm his baby mama. I was just joking. I'm his daughter's mother. And they said, he is such a nice guy. I mean, separately, this kept happening.
Right.
Right. And then they walked away, and then it was another male doctor who came up and said the same thing.
Mm.
And I was just like, they didn't even know that I was with him. Why are they coming to tell me this? And I just took a moment to understand why this was all happening, and angels. I believe in angels. I believe in things happening and people coming to tell me certain things for a reason.
Yeah.
And he was a good guy, and I know that sounds crazy, anyone who's listening and they don't know all the details to the story. But I'm just grateful that I forgave, and I'm glad that I forgave and allowed him to be in my daughter's life so he could give our daughter what she needed from jail. And I tip my hat to him for stepping up to the plate and being a father, because there's men out here in the streets that aren't locked up who weren't a father like he was to our daughter. And for that, I'm forever grateful.
What a story of forgiveness and redemption here. This is like nothing short of miraculous that's happening. And I had Cassandra, one of our team members, sending some statistics about forgiveness. And actually it says, though these statistics primarily describe respondents' subjective reports or perceptions of these concepts, they are at least offer a glimpse of Christians' experience with radical forgiveness. And so here is saying the majority practicing Christians, according to this stat, 76% believe that they offer unconditional love, and then joyful forgiveness to another person who had hurt, upset, or sinned against them. Nearly 1 in 6, which is 15%, say that they never offered this level of forgiveness, and 9% admitted that they're not really sure. So there's some pretty interesting statistics pertaining to just forgiveness overall and how people can go to extremes. And I would say that you definitely are in the 76%, right? Because you have forgiven at a whole different level. Now, we are going to be closing out soon, but we definitely will not be closing out without talking about the love of Gino Lee's life, because he done came in and swooped her off her feet, and life is altogether different for her. Let me put this picture up too. This is 4 generations, right?
Yes, that's my mom and I, my daughter and granddaughter.
Absolutely beautiful. OMG. Oh, wait a minute. The daughter. Oh my goodness. So wait a minute. I thought that was you in the red flower, but that's your daughter.
Yes, that's my daughter. And
get out of here. That's you with the teal flower.
That's my mom with the teal flower, me with the emerald green. We all wore flowers to represent our birthstones. And my daughter with the ruby red, and then my granddaughter with the white.
Oh my gosh, I love this picture. And that's right, because you're May 30th. I'm May 31st. Anyway, so we're that's our birthstone.
Right.
Wow. Okay, you guys, I have to take a commercial break, and then we're going to hear about the love of her life and how good times are still happening. I want you to go and get a copy of this book, God Likes the Sound of Good Times by Jean O'Lee Sidbury. You don't want to miss getting this book, because I am telling you, this woman's story is going to keep you watching. You might even say, I'm gonna DVR this and read one chapter and read another, and you're gonna be acting like you're on a whole mini series. It is a lot to unpack in that story, but truly a story of forgiveness and redemption and identifying triggers and all kinds of factors that are to be considered. Let me talk to you all briefly. You're gonna kind of still be here on the screen as I talk about our next commercial. God will always send you someone that will help you heal. Yes, Vanita. Okay, our next episode sponsor is, if you are single and dating in real life, it's a dating club, a cross between a dating app and a social club. They say it's where people meet people, not profiles. Their members can search profiles to find other members, but they can also use their group activities and dates as their first date. It's safer, cheaper, and fun. As a single, they can participate in events and activities which are designed to bring people together without them feeling obligated before they are ready to, without putting a lot of time and money or deal with negative dating games. Dating is a numbers game, but you can still have fun while you are getting to know your special one. They also offer meet and match activities like virtual and in real life speed dating. And they host these meet and match events where people can come and connect.
499.
Oh, what's happening? Okay, yeah, I'm doing something here. All right, so there is a speed dating event. You can take that comment down, Mackenzie, for me. There is a speed dating event happening. And that's why you should never say never, right? Because I don't think this is something I would have ever even be interested in, whatever. But I know some family and friends that absolutely love the fact that they found their special soulmate on dating line or something. So who knows? I don't know. Here's the deal. Let me share this screen with you so you can learn of this episode's sponsor, who, let me find this, because this was some good stuff they were talking about. And I think it's going to be worth sharing today. Here we go. Now, this episode's sponsor, it says on December 9th. Can you all see that? Yeah, on December 9th, there's going to be an evening of speed dating, wine and pre-workshop on flirting. So you can RSVP. And if you are in the Philadelphia, it says West Point, Pennsylvania area, it's on December 9th from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. West Point, 1830 West Point Pike in West Point, Pennsylvania. So you are able to go. I'll put this link, and the ticket prices are there if you are interested in going and doing some speed dating and even getting a workshop on flirting, if that's something that's of interest to you. And it's at the Cardinal Hollow location. That's where the event will be taking place. So I am going to put this link here for you, and I'll stop sharing, but I thought that was pretty interesting. So thank you for being today's episode sponsor. And anybody that does take them up on this offer in the Philadelphia area, please let me know how it went. I would love to know whether you met your Boaz or if you, I don't know, whatever. Please keep me informed. Tell me, if you will, any closing comments that you have, and tell us about your significant other, who is definitely the love of your life.
Yes, that's my husband, Stephen. And I met him 23 years ago. Girlfriend introduced me. It's my baby. And he's just the sweetest giant I've ever met in my life. And I remember praying, saying, is there a such thing as happily ever after? Because I've been through it all, right? Is there a such thing, right? And then I had lunch with my girlfriend, and we were in their cafeteria, and they work for a big company, so they had their own cafeteria. And I went and met her for lunch, and this guy comes over, and his voice is like Barry White. And he was just like, "Hello, ladies," and
Okay, so he had that Barry White voice, deep voice.
yes, yes. And she knew him, so he clearly wanted to be introduced. And now we've had that conversation. So he came over and introduced himself.
He wanted to see those dimples and get to know them more, huh?
Yes, and that was it. I mean, we at the time he was married. So when he walked away, she was like, "Well, he's married." And I was like, "Oh, well, he's a fine older guy, right?" And that was the end of that. And then he asked her to reach out to me, and we became friends, just friends. And I said, "Listen, I'm not." His wife lived far away in Canada. And so I said, "But, even though you're separated, nothing happening." Right. And so long story short, they had a company baseball party, because he was the captain and another friend, and he invited me, and she invited me for him. And then I went with my daughter. Right. And he said, he walked up to me and he wanted to dance with me, and he talked to my daughter, of course, and everything, but he wanted to dance with me. And I was like, "Okay, sure." And he said, "What do you have on?" And I said, "Tommy girl." I was wearing a little Tommy girl then.
Okay.
And he said, "Oh, it makes me want to be a Tommy boy." And I was like,
"Oh gosh, no, not that line, Steve."
I was only 28 years old, but I said, "This old guy, this is really what I was thinking. I'm gonna just be honest. This old cat got me, like, he don't," And anyway, he filed for a divorce. And then we, of course, became a couple, and I'm happy we did. And I'm happy I didn't listen to friends and other people who, "You're so young. He's 16 years older than you. You're so vibrant. Why?" And it's very important, no matter the age. Age is just a number, to just make sure you do what's best for you and what makes you happy. Because had I listened, I wouldn't have the love of my life and have a happy marriage right now. And someone who accepts me for me, all everything that comes with me, because I'm a lot.
You've been through a lot, that's for sure. So Steven seems very supportive of you and your journey. I went back to some of your Facebook posts and things, and it seems like he's celebrating you in this journey called life as well.
Yeah.
Tell people how they. Oh, I have one more picture, because this right here is a big deal too. You lost like 100 pounds or something, right?
Yes, I did.
What in the world? What did you do to lose 100 pounds? Look at you.
Got off the couch, started working out, fell in love with it, started running, fell in love with that. And I was shocked, because I said my name and running was like an oxymoron a little while ago. In the same sentence, I never thought I would like running, but I found a running group called Black Girls Run. There was a business card of the ambassador at my gym, and one thing led to another. But I initially started when my granddaughter was born. I started a boot camp in Cleveland, right, at a boot camp. And that was the start of my weight loss journey. I said, I want to do cartwheels with my grandbaby. I don't have to look like a grandmother just because I am one.
Yes, come through, Grandma.
Here for her, And so when we moved to North Carolina, of course, I didn't have that accountability partners, and like I had at the boot camp, and I had to figure it out. And I put weight back on, but I went to the gym, and one thing led to another, where I found this running group, which was a whole movement in itself, and these wonderful women. I started to run, and that really slimmed me down. So, yeah. And so now I know what to do, gain a little weight here and there, COVID, holidays, but I know what to do to get back on the horse and get it together. Right. So, but I'll never go back to that size. I was there at 22, 24. That was, I call it a mommy suit. I said, I got to get out of this mommy suit. I'm so grateful that I did.
I am so grateful you did too. And I'm so grateful, most importantly, that you're even here to share your story and your trials and tribulations and stories of forgiveness, everything. Is there anything that you wanted to say that you didn't get to say? I think we touched on, you have a bucket list dream, and I would love to hear what you would like to see happen as a dream for one day your book being on where? Tell everybody, and we'll be closing out soon.
Sure. I would like to see my story on the big screen. God likes the sound of good times. I know it will be. I'm not gonna say I like it to be. I know it will be. The title of my book was something totally different, and I'd had a dream about this, and a guy said to me, "God likes the sound of good times" in my dream, and I prayed about the title, and when I went to bed and had that dream, I knew this was the title of my book, and that's where that comes from. And I said, how honored I am that God wants me to tell everyone and share my story, that he likes the sound of good times, or she, right? And so, I'm honored. And so when you know that, wait a minute, this is a collaboration with God, that's
Right.
what I know. It's bound to be heard all over the world.
That's good. And you also have a clothing line, and I think that's what we'll kind of close out on. And tell us the website for your clothing line again.
It's Class, CLASS, the word and polish, POLISH.com, classandpolish.com.
Classandpolish.com, everybody. So make sure you check out Class and Polish. And what can they expect when they go and check out Class and Polish? You say Class and?
Yes.
ND.
No doubt. Well, the website, excuse me, you can follow me on all platforms, Class and is spelled out Polish. However, the website is Class and the letter N.
This is nice.
The letter
N. Take people over here. Look at this. Hold on, everybody. I'm a visual person, so I have to show you. I have to show you Class and Polish. And it's a movement brand is what she is sharing here. Let me go here and add this into the screen. This is awesome.
Thank you.
OMG. Okay. So let's see. Class and Polish. Oh, it's all kind of things you can win, different things. But look at this. In a world of basics, controlled actions, and power. Look at this. Look at that. Be classic. Look at that.
Yes. So that is, expect more from the brand, but the website is Class, the letter N, and then polish.com. But right now we're doing shirts, hats, hoodies. But the plan is to, everything you think of when you think of Class and Polish, I will spin off into, I'll just leave it there. I won't.
Yeah. Don't tell me. Girl, this is some good stuff right there. So
but it's of course an honor of my grandmothers who carried themselves with class and polish, and it kept me on the right track, pulling from those memories. And that's where that comes from. And the book is, of course, the story behind the brand.
This is so good. Well, I am so honored that you've been here today. It has been a wonderful pleasure and privilege to have you on the Kim Jacobs Show. All of our episode sponsors, make sure you all stay connected with Silver Shield. Make sure you stay connected with Gino Lee on all social media outlets under her name, Gino Lee Sidbury, or Gino Lee I Am on Instagram. Go make sure you follow her now. And God Likes the Sound of Good Times, or Class and Polish, if you want to follow her clothing line. Attorney Charles Everidge with Hunter Everidge Law Firm. We want to thank them for being an episode sponsor. If you're dealing with disability or any type of wrongful death of a loved one, and you are in the Charlotte and surrounding areas, you're in the Richmond or surrounding areas, or in the Alabama or surrounding areas, give them a call, 704-377-9157. And then also check out subscribing to the Kim Jacobs Show. If you haven't already done that, make sure you do that. And our episode sponsor of GetInsured.Solutions. They deal with final life insurance expenses to keep more in your pocket as a family versus having to put everything out in burial expenses. 704-499-3616. Okay, that's our episode today. And I hope that you all will tune in again on tomorrow at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you so much, Gino Lee.
Thank you, Miss Kim.
Wow, I think we got a lot accomplished, right?
Oh, yes, we did. We did. I appreciate it. And please, guys, follow Miss Kim, support the Kim Jacobs Show and Kim Jacobs Consulting. This woman has a heart of gold, and it's very rare nowadays to meet people like you who are just wide open and you want to just reach back and help and uplift anyone, that you're in arm's length or not with, right? But I really appreciate you. I wanted to be on this show because I saw who you were, and it's not easy talking to just anyone about my story. And I feel so comfortable with you. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Wow. And thank you for trusting me with your story. I really appreciate that. All right. Thank you all too for tuning in. And if you want to support the Kim Jacobs Show, you can see it's been scrolling down below throughout today's broadcast. And this is the only way that we get a chance to keep programming like this coming on every single day. Thank you too for your support. I did see that you also supported Gina Lee yourself. So thank you. You just, sent something to the show, and I really appreciate that. All right, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. You stay backstage, Gina Lee. Get this book. Go get the book. Go get the book. God Likes the Sound of Good Times. I've put it in the comment section for you already. And we will see you tomorrow at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on The Kim Jacobs Show. Have a great one. Hello, everyone. I'm Kim Jacobs, host of The Kim Jacobs Show, where we're bringing balance to the world one household at a time. Listen, we go live every weekday, Monday through Friday at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I bring guests on that talk about their backstories, things that they've had to overcome to become who they are today. Many of them are balancing and juggling life, and they've become experts in different fields. So they're sharing tips with you to make your life just a little bit easier. Many times as a guest in the studio audience, you'll get a chance to walk away with a missing piece of the puzzle that might be missing in your life. Let's go on this journey together, and I look forward to seeing you Monday through Friday at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on The Kim Jacobs Show.